Welcome to the countdown, people. We're diving into the top 10 UFC pay-per-view events of all time. These are the nights that made the UFC what it is today. The fights, the knockouts, the submissions, the drama. These are the ppvs that had everyone talking, the ones that broke records and set the bar higher than ever before. So crack open a cold one, get comfortable, and prepare to relive the most insane, unpredictable, and awe-inspiring moments in UFC history. Let's do this. You knew this one was coming. UFC 229, Khabib versus McGregor, a cultural phenomenon. The build-up, the press conferences, the trash talk, like a movie. Khabib, the undefeated champion, versus Conor, the Irish superstar. And the fight? Insane as the hype. Fourth round, Khabib sinks in the choke, Conor taps, and then all hell breaks loose. Chaos, pure and simple. UFC 100, a monumental event for the UFC. The main event was a rematch, Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir. Lesnar, fuming from his loss, came in like a man possessed. He was a beast on a mission to destroy. The ground and pound was relentless, and Lesnar got his revenge. This win cemented Lesnar as a true force in the heavyweight division. UFC 205, the first ever UFC event in Madison Square Garden, New York City. And they made history that night. Conor McGregor aimed to hold two belts simultaneously against Eddie Alvarez. The atmosphere was electric. And Conor? He put on a clinic. Alvarez had no answer. 2 rounds, 4 knockdowns, and Conor made history. The Notorious was on top of the world. The Diaz-McGregor saga. After Nate Diaz shocked the world at UFC 196, the rematch at UFC 202 was the hottest ticket in town. Everyone wanted to see how Conor would respond. And man, what a fight it was. Back and forth they went, both guys leaving it all in the octagon. Conor dropped Nate multiple times, but Diaz just kept coming forward. In the end, Conor edged out a razor-thin decision. UFC 194, where Conor McGregor's legend began. He faced Jose Aldo, the long-reigning featherweight champion. Aldo was undefeated for a decade, but Conor predicted a first-round knockout. And then, in a blink, it was over. 13 seconds, 1 left hook, and Aldo was out cold. The crowd went berserk. It was the fastest knockout in UFC title fight history. UFC 193, Ronda Rousey versus Holm. Ronda was the women's bantamweight champion, undefeated, a global superstar. She was considered unbeatable, a force of nature who was finishing opponents left and right. Enter Holm, the seasoned striker, the underdog with a plan. And what a plan it was. Holm picked Ronda apart with leg kicks, keeping her at range. And then, in the second round, it happened. A head kick heard around the world. Ronda went down, Holm followed up with punches, and just like that, the invincible was vanquished. UFC 116, Brock Lesnar defending his heavyweight title against the undefeated interim champ, Carwin. Carwin was a monster, a knockout artist who had run through everyone in his path. In the first round, he unleashed on Lesnar, dropping him and nearly finishing the fight. But Lesnar, somehow, survived. He weathered the storm, came out in the second round, took Carwin down, and sunk in an arm triangle choke for the win. The image of Lesnar, battered and bruised but victorious, is one of the most iconic in UFC history. UFC 196, Conor McGregor moved up in weight to fight Nate Diaz. The trash talk was epic, the hype was through the roof, but Nate Diaz doesn't care about your hype. He submitted Conor in the second round with a rear-naked choke, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. And then there was that post-fight interview. "I'm not surprised, motherfuckers." UFC 217, Georges St-Pierre, one of the greatest of all time, returning after a 4-year layoff to challenge Michael Bisping for the middleweight title. Bisping, the ultimate trash talker, had been on a roll, but GSP took him down and finished him with a rear-naked choke. GSP was back and better than ever. We had to end this list with a classic, a rivalry for the ages. Chuck Liddell, the Iceman, versus Tito Ortiz, the Huntington Beach bad boy. Their feud captivated the MMA world. They met twice in the octagon, and both times, Liddell emerged victorious with his trademark knockout power. Their fights are still considered some of the most exciting in the sport's history. So there you have it, the top 10 UFC pay-per-view events of all time. We're talking about the fights that had us on the edge of our seats, the knockouts that made our jaws drop, the submissions that left us speechless, the moments that transcended the sport and became part of MMA history. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more UFC content.